to Conscious Living here at the Specially Produce Network. We are so glad you're here to support your lifestyle with the fastest growing resource for conscious families. So sit back, relax, connect, and enjoy. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Center for Conscious Kids. I'm here live in San Diego, and my guest today is Annie Kolatkar, live in Los Angeles. And we're here to ring in the new year with focus. Welcome, Annie.
Hi, Ashley. Happy New Year. Thanks for having me back.
Oh, Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you and everyone. It's such an exciting year ahead of us. Just prior to 2020. Isn't that amazing? I'm
Definitely.
amazed.
I know 2020, we're all going to have perfect vision that year, right?
That's right. That's for sure. That's what we're all working on. We're going to heal our vision, everybody on the planet. Well, we wanted to focus on focus today, which is so fun and amazing. And sometimes for people that can be challenging. So, why is focus important?
Well, first, I know we've got probably some first-time listeners here, and I want to make a distinction before we get into today's topic. And it's an important one because it will set the stage for how you frame the information that we're going to present. So Ashley and I are not mindfulness coaches. We're energy healers. And so our goal today is to support you in identifying the energies that prevent you from focusing so that you can open, clear them, release those energies, and then you'll be achieving the level of focus that you actually desire. I mean,
Right.
this could make you unstoppable. I mean, who doesn't want that, right?
Right. Right.
So
Just move all that energetic clutter out of the way.
exactly. And so I like to look at the energetics behind focus because focus is really something that just happens naturally, organically when we deal with all the energetics that are in our experience. Then we get into that flow state where focus just happens. It's
Right.
not something you have to do. And
Right. You
so
don't have
we're
to
going to
focus on the focus.
yeah, and so I think people struggle so much with not they think focus is an action like that it just they have to get into this certain
Mode.
experience where they're doing something and they think the doing is the focusing, but focus is really about kind of crystallizing your perspective energetically so that there's no energetic influences coming in to distract you or take your attention off the task at hand.
Absolutely.
And so I think, one way to look at that is a dialectic conversation that you're having with your work, right? It's you and your work, and there's nothing else getting in between.
Right. That
And that's what
point
we
to
all
that
want,
point.
right?
Yes. Clearing the path.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's no push energy, in that state of being. It just happens. And um, I really think that we could look today at where we have these energetics because they happen on all the energy bodies that we have, the physical, the emotional, the mental, and the spiritual. And those areas, when we give those the attention that they really truly deserve, we clear the path to focus happening naturally, don't we?
Absolutely. And we wanted to also take a look at when you are the focuser, when you want to focus, who are you and what is happening in your temperament and your own energetics and your own ideas of where things are coming in or going out or bothering you or impacting you? What type of person gets affected by focus, right? So we wanted to take a just a brief look at that. So, what are the types of people that are challenged? And I think everyone can be challenged from time to time with focus. But what are some of the areas that we wanted to illustrate for people where they could recognize that that might be impacting them before they even get ready to focus, for example?
I think highly sensitive people and multisensory people
For sure.
struggle with focusing because they're more aware of the energies that are in their environment, that are in themselves, in others, and they understand more about the energetics of the impact their work might be having, and that can be distracting.
Right. Right. So we're looking at things that distract us or pull us off of our focus, right? So some of the multisensory or highly sensitive people could be sensitive to sound. Like sometimes around here in our studio, sometimes we have the beeping going on and with the trucks backing up or the train going by, right? And that could get us off of focus here in the studio from time to time. There could be different focuses like you're experiencing, Annie, auditorily, right? In LA, it could be loud sirens outside on the street or the ice cream truck driving by, right? Different things
Yeah, exactly.
that could get us off center or get us out of balance with what we're wanting to experience or create or determine how to put something together, right?
That's correct. I noticed too that people who have attention deficit disorders, um, even hyperactivity added in,
Short
they
attention span.
struggle.
Yeah.
Yes, short attention span. You got it. Um, Even people with health problems, like there was a time when I had sciatica that prevented me from sitting or standing to get work done. It was so painful. And really what it represented was I had stuffed emotions that I didn't want to deal with, or I was resistant to looking to the beliefs that I was running in my life at that time. And they were in my nervous system and they were actually in the sciatic nerve. And when I was willing to look at those, my sciatica actually got healed and it has not come back.
What was that?
So
What was that symptom or that feeling or that awareness that you had that was stuck in the sciatica? What were you experiencing?
it was uh, oh my gosh, layers and layers and layers of consciousness problems
Yeah.
that were literally, it was like a traffic jam. I don't know
That's a
how
good
else
way
to
to put it.
describe. I mean, someone has to come in there and go, okay, what was the last consciousness problem that came in that was the suppression energy? We had to peel off the suppression. Then
Right.
there was veiling energy I didn't want to look at. And
Right.
then I had to peel that layer off so I could see my beliefs, so I could understand that I was resistant to even looking at some of the ways in which I didn't feel supported in life. And then after I untangled all of this and I just let it go, it didn't bother me anymore. It wasn't even there.
Isn't that
So
amazing?
it was really about looking at the consciousness that had created the problem, the stuffing down. I don't want to look at this now. I can't look at this now. I've got a young child with special needs, and there's too much. There's just way too much stuff going on.
Right.
So that our bodies do remember because we tell them to.
Right.
And so we have to look at our physical bodies and really lovingly give them what they need and want so that we can be present in our body to do the work we need to do.
Absolutely. And some of those energies that you talked about or those things that were all congested in the sciatica was some mental energies, right? And some emotional energies and maybe some spiritual energies that all intertwine with each other and really affected the physical body. And that's what we find commonly with people and in regards to how that impacts our ability to focus. So in with your sciatica that you were experiencing, were you experiencing different levels of difficulty in focusing? Maybe because of the
Oh,
pain?
I was doing everything I could to not focus on the pain. I was using heavy amounts of distraction energy so I didn't have to notice the pain, but the pain would just get louder and louder and louder.
Right.
And so every time I went to add more and more suppression energy, I was using energy that I would have used to complete other tasks. And in the end, nothing got done while I had sciatica. And when I, gave my sciatica the attention it was actually asking for, I then liberated myself from that. I call it a consciousness mess, and it was just an entanglement with a whole bunch of beliefs. Then all that energy was liberated for me to go accomplish what I needed to.
Yeah. So you could get back
So
to that focus that you were really intending versus, because no one intends to focus on what's negative or what's hurting them in their, even in their physical body, right? And
right.
and so we don't recognize that actually pulls us off of focus though from the other things we want to do. So if we're noticing something that we're experiencing in any level of pain or suffering, even emotional pain and suffering.
Yeah, like depression. Some people with depression have a very difficult time focusing because of the feelings in their physical body. They go into overwhelm. So, what I recommend for people with depression is to identify like the best time of day for you to work.
Right,
And if that's, a certain window of time, use it.
right.
Treasure that space and time, because then you empower yourself and then you feel better about yourself and then you can build on that.
Right. And there's other forms of emotional energies too that impact us too. I know many people who talk to me about the burdens that they feel, and they can be emotional burdens from other
Huge.
people or family members or their workplace. It all depends on where it's coming from. But many of them have described that they literally have hundreds of pounds on their back, like a big knapsack, and
That is true.
they wanted to just pull it off and send it away, send it to the garbage truck, right, and send it away. But what if we don't have to do that? What if we can take that off our back physically and actually move it in front of us and say, I know that this is here for me and I can take care of it at this time if that's appropriate, or another time, and I can go back to what I'm originally focusing on, complete that task, and then have time to come back to these elements inside of the knapsack, right?
Right. Right. So I always like to kind of jokingly say no one puts on their to-do list things like, grieve for dad,
Right. Exactly.
resolve anger over unjust bill or traffic ticket, right? And then suddenly, while you're trying to focus, everything reminds you of your dad or of that, traffic cop or whatever it is, right? And it makes it really hard to concentrate when you feel sad. So,
Right.
what do we do in those moments? We typically summon up huge amounts of suppression energy just to move forward. And we call that push energy. And that is probably the most non helpful energy there is, because you want to be in a state of mastery or flow. And so flow and mastery is what benefits your project at hand that you want to accomplish. So
Absolutely.
it's important that if the sadness is what's getting your attention, honor it. Just say, okay, I notice you, sadness. I know you're in my body because I haven't fully expressed it. Or, okay, I admit I'm angry at getting an unjust bill. Um, and in this moment, I just want to acknowledge to my body that you got my attention. I recognize that I have anger that I have to process out, and I will get to that. And right now, in this moment, I'm choosing to focus on this so I can get this task accomplished. And I promise you, as soon as I'm done, I will look at my anger or my sadness and see what I can do.
Correct. And like another famous one that we see, and everyone, we do it too, everyone does it, is we veil what we don't want to see a lot of times. And some people could call that denial or avoidance or
Mm-hmm.
different things, but those are all coping. We're trying to cope with what it is. So just like you said, I didn't put on my to-do list my father passing, and really working with that emotionally and spiritually and mentally and physically, and what does that mean, and how do I deal with that, because I recognize that those feelings are actually impacting my everyday life and my
That's
ability to
right.
focus on the other intentions that I want to accomplish throughout my day. And so,
Right.
where do we give ourselves? We're not used to giving ourselves this space. And other spaces, like, for example, we could get stuck in a rut, right? And be really work, 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 do, send the kids to school, school, school. And we can get really tied up into those paradigms, especially after the holidays, for example. So like ringing in the new year. Are we going to set up the same patterns of do, be, everything like that? We're wanting to offer an opportunity for everyone to notice that how could you add to your intentions of focus to feed your soul each and every day? How could you support your emotions, good, bad, or otherwise? How could you support them in feeling really balanced throughout the day?
I think people don't realize when they create a to-do list or their goals, they are missing the number one intention, which is they're doing these things to create ultimately more peace or more happiness. Even if their goal is to make more money, get their degree, expand their house, um, get their kids into the college of their choices, all of those things ultimately the hidden driving force, if you will, is that they want more peace, they want more happiness, and they see that those pathways are going to help them achieve that.
Absolutely.
So I think we could look at our mental environment here for just a moment, and if we are going to be mindful on anything here, it's in our mental environment where we have our beliefs and survival brain versus thrival brain, if you will. Our survival brain loves to have beliefs that are rooted in fear so it can protect us. And so the practice of examining your beliefs when you feel stuck is really important. Like, I think everybody thinks time is either against them or they fear delays in completion or
Or they don't have
they're
enough
running out of
time.
time, don't have enough. Yeah, exactly. Or that time is controlling them somehow. And I think we all want the non-interrupted experience. Am I
Right,
right?
right. Well, especially when our focus is so multidimensional. Like we have to focus on, many things that we're doing task related are media related as well on the computer or on the phone or different things. And there's such a levels of systems that are involved in that process
Yeah.
of going to completion through a project or a process that you want to create. And so many times we want uninterrupted focus so that we can remember the system involved step one, step two,
Hmm.
steps three. And how do we overlay that with distractions or disruptions or interruptions? How do we deal with that in a way that we don't get so flustered or frustrated? Because again, that emotional component can even further denigrate or degrade that level of focus that you were having.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know that we have a zillion different beliefs that we operate from that sometimes prevent us from even looking at some of the things you mentioned. Like, what if you're running a belief that I can't do what you and others say I can do?
Right. That
Um,
shuts it all down.
it does. And what about children, right? I know my little 6-year-old is like, no, there's too much fun to be had. I might miss something, so I don't want to go to bed, right? And they
Right.
can't focus on winding down their day to go to sleep.
Right.
And I know he struggles with boredom. That's a belief, right? If
Right.
you don't believe in boredom, then guess what? You'll never be bored.
You'll never be bored.
Right.
And it helps your focus because when we move into that feeling or that thought process of being bored, we then wander and it's like almost the opposite of focus is a
Yes.
state of boredom and we wander and we have no idea what to do and we're not in choice anymore and we devalue what's happening around us. All
Hmm.
kinds of things start to kind of implode in our experience.
Yeah. And before we wrap this up, on the spiritual energetic body, if your soul is not expressing its purpose or its empowerments,
Yes.
there could be huge resistance to the task at hand. I mean, how hard would it be for you to focus on a mundane task that doesn't allow you to express your reason for being here?
Right. Exactly. So
So
it's
that's
so
another consideration.
when you're in a mode of wanting to feed your soul and maybe meditate or take a walk or eat really good food or go shopping in amazing environments for food or other things that you'd like to have to feed your soul. And then all of a sudden, you've got housework, you've got cleaning, you've got laundry. It looks very uninhabitable to be even doing that, right? Inside of our being. And so, how do we find that focus? How do we find that balance to be able to support feeding our soul, feeding our emotions, supporting our emotional body, our mental thoughts and feelings and beliefs, and even down into the physical, in our physical body and our environment?
I have a suggestion for people. Um, when you're doing tasks that may not be the most pleasant, really praise yourself for your commitment to getting it done. The more you praise your commitment to getting your goals accomplished, you will reinforce the actions that you're taking and the thoughts that you're taking that are getting you to the finish line that you've set up for yourself. Rather than praising yourself at the end, praise yourself on the journey,
Yes.
that every time you notice you're being very committed. And there's just one little funny story that popped into my head I want to share with people. And oh, maybe 20 years ago or so, I went to one of those Zig Ziglar motivational rally talks,
Yeah.
and he said something that really has stuck with me forever. He goes, "How many of you have gone on vacation? You remember the last day at work before you went on vacation, you got so much done?"
Right.
Or the day before you retired, you got all those projects and notes made for the next person who's going to sit in your desk and drive the train from that department. Well, it's true that because we perceive that there's a reward at the end of our actions, we get really motivated. And
Right.
that's why I really want to tie it back to honor and give yourself some positive regard for having the commitment while you're in the commitment stage, getting it done.
Correct.
Because
All the way
otherwise, you're just
through.
going to set yourself up for, oh, I need a reward at the end of doing this. And, that Pavlovian thinking has to leave our experience.
It sure does. Because, quite honestly, what if every day is a vacation, even inside our everyday environments? Our work,
Yeah.
our school, our what if every day isn't a vacation? And so, preparing that process and creating that momentum and through levels of commitment and a desire to complete these different availabilities. And sometimes we can't complete on our own. Sometimes it supports delegating it to others and exploring those realms of how can we have other people support us and how can we have other people support themselves, right? To be able to accomplish the goals we want to create collectively.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
All of these
Well,
ways we can impact our level of focus, right? Even
that's
from an
true.
energetic standpoint and feeding all of those aspects of our experience.
Well, can I share with our listeners what you and I are focusing on this year?
Absolutely.
So Ashley and I are working on a book together that is going to change everyone's experience for the better.
It really is.
We are supporting people in identifying the consciousness, let's call them issues or problems that holds them back, right? Beliefs that are self-limiting.
Right.
And we've created a library of 100 different types of ego consciousness that is not in anyone's best interest.
Right.
And then we've married that idea with the conflict resolution so that you can do self-healing, because as Ashley likes to say, self-healing is self-enlightenment.
It really is.
So by all means, join our mailing list, find us on Facebook so you can get notified when this book comes out. And we're hoping our goal is to get it out this spring
Yes.
2019, and it'll be called Leap of Consciousness. And it'll be about illuminating and putting light on the life you always dreamed of.
That's so true. So amazing. And it's so wonderful to share this opportunity with everyone. And we are so excited. What will you focus with this year? We're so glad you joined us. Thank you for today, and we will see you soon.
So long, everyone. Thank you.
thank you all for listening to this podcast. We are so grateful for you tuning in and experiencing the innovations and opportunities we all can incorporate into our daily lives. Connect with us at centerforconsciouskids.com to sign up for the latest news that showcases these revolutionary services and products. Our global website provides families with an online conduit for enrichment and transformation in all our lives. Please share with other kids and families who would enjoy these advancements in living consciously. I'm Ashley Lee, and I thank you so much for joining us.